Hi, everybody. Welcome to Core Life Spiritual Weather Report. It's July 31st of 2022, and this is Brad. I'm here in the U.S., and my beloved Leslie is in South Africa. And as always, welcome to everybody. I know we have some new people and many who've been coming for a long time, some long-time Core Lighters and old friends, and I welcome all of you. It's really nice for me to be able to, I can see your names and where you're from as you come in, and it's just really sweet to see you all here. I wish we could be in a room and we could see each other and look each other in the eye and give each other hugs and so forth. You know, it's been a long time since we've had that, and I'm hoping that can happen again one day, hopefully not in the too distant future. But meanwhile, you know, this is great. We have the technology to be able to connect in this way. And so it makes me happy. I look forward to this every month, to be able to be in the field together with you and to just share the love. You know, I feel you, and I hope you're feeling the field that we're all creating. It's always an amazing group, you know. You don't see this like I do, but from all over the world. Many continents and many countries represented. Most people are from the U.S. But it's just a delight. So welcome, and I just want to say, wow, you know, what intensity of energy we're experiencing. It's been happening for a few weeks now, but the energy is just continuing to accelerate and intensify. And I know that that's true almost every month. You know, I say similar words every month, but I have not felt it this extreme in a very long time. And at times, it's almost like it feels like a disturbance in the force, you know, that's been rumbling through the inner planes the past few weeks. That's how I've been feeling, and I know quite a few others who have as well. And we're in the Lion's Gate window now, which is part of what this is all about, I think. It opened on July 26th. The Lion's Gate peaks on August 8th, and it closes supposedly on August 12th, which is Leslie's birthday, by the way. But some people say it goes on for, you know, quite a while. It's sort of, you know, it doesn't have exact beginnings and endings. So it's always one of the most powerful times of the year. Spiritually, energetically, astrologically, it's considered to be a very sacred time by the indigenous and shamanic traditions. But this is one of the most powerful and intense Lion's Gates that I've ever experienced. So we'll speak more about what that is and what to expect and how to use it to our full advantage today. And that being said, here are the themes that we're going to be discussing today. I always tune in inwardly to see what themes need to be discussed, and this is what I got this time. Being the artist of your life. The second one is receiving the powerful energies of the Lion's Gate, as I just said. Number 3, the rising of the feminine power. Number 4, embracing the unknown and being flexible. Number 5, clearing cynicism and despair. And number 6, and the last one, developing the power of purity. So there's a lot here. I hope we can get to it all. It's a lot to share. Let's see how much we can do today. And we also have some fantastic questions and sharings that came in, so we'll also get to those. And for anybody who's new to these calls, I start by offering a guided meditation, and then I speak about the prevailing energies that are affecting us and also about the spiritual principles that are most helpful for us right now. And then we have time for the questions and answers, as I said, and we close the session with a brief prayer or guided meditation or whatever we have time for at the end. And if you need to leave before the call ends, you can always listen to the recording later. We do send the link out to our email list, and it's also posted on YouTube and on our website. let's see, before we get started with our guided meditation, there was just one thing I wanted to mention today. I mentioned it last month, but it just bears repeating. Leslie's birthday is coming up on August 12th, and we always do some kind of little celebration. And this year, we're going to be celebrating by offering 25% off of everything on the Sacred Art Gallery for a few weeks. And it's going to start with her birthday, and it'll go through roughly the end of August. And we said last time I was thinking it would be in the lead up to her birthday. That's what we originally thought, but we're going to do it from her birthday to the end of August instead. And we'll also be offering some new pieces of Leslie's sacred art. So if you've been eyeing a piece of art and you want to hang that on your walls at home, this is the great opportunity. You'll be helping to get that transmission of healing energy out into the world that Leslie imbues into her art, and you'll also save 25%. And a portion of the proceeds go to Seeds of Light's children's art program for the kids that we support in rural South Africa. We always give a percentage of the art sales to that program. So you'll be supporting the kids too. So please consider getting some art in August. The gallery, if you want to see it right now, it doesn't have the new pieces on it yet, but the gallery is at corelight.org, and it's on the main menu under Sacred Art. And like I said, we'll be sending out some emails about it, so you can be on the lookout about that. All right, my friends. So let's start with our guided meditation, and I invite you to get comfortable and close your eyes. And let's begin with a few long, slow, deep breaths. Just letting go, just relaxing, breathing in the light, breathing out any shadow that you might be holding on to, breathing in the present moment, breathing out any concerns about the past or the future. Breathing in peace. Breathing out any stress that you might be feeling. Let's continue. Long, slow, deep breaths. As you probably know, at some level of her being, Leslie is overlighting these calls, and there's a transmission of healing energy that comes through from another level. So while you're breathing and relaxing, I invite you to just receive. We talk a lot on these calls, and sometimes we forget that maybe the most important thing is the energetic experience. If you can remain meditative and relax throughout the call, you continue to receive the transmission of healing energy that comes through. But just breathing, just letting go, just relaxing. And as I always say, it doesn't matter if you're with us live today or if you're listening to this recording later. We're all part of the field of love, and we're all connected. And time and space don't really exist except in the third dimension. So you can just tune in to those other levels beyond time and space and feel the connection that we all share in the heart. Just continuing to breathe and relax. And while you breathe and relax, I'm going to talk us through a little muscular relaxation from head to toes. We do this every month, and the reason is because relaxation, physical relaxation, is the foundation of the enlightening of our consciousness. And we sometimes forget that. It's so simple, just to breathe and relax and let go. It's the very basis for our awakening. letting go of stress. So just visualize and feel a warm liquid pouring over the top of your head like honey, relaxing all the muscles that it touches, starting with the scalp, pouring down over your forehead, and your ears, and your temples, back of your head. Feeling all those muscles relax and feel it pouring over your eyebrows, down into your eyes, relaxing your eyelids and your eyeballs and the whole eye socket. Just allowing the eyeballs to fall back into the socket. And relax all the many, many tiny little muscles surrounding the eyes. Place where we hold on to a lot of tension. So just feel this warm honey caressing the whole area of your eyes. And just breathe and let all the tension go. And feel the honey continuing to pour down your face, over your nose, your mouth, your cheeks, your jaw. And feel the back of your tongue relaxing. A very special place when you can relax the back of the tongue. The whole region of the body relaxes. Back of the head, the neck and the shoulders and the jaw, everything relaxes when you relax the back of the tongue. So just spend a moment there, just allowing yourself to let go deeply. And feel the honey continuing to pour down your shoulders, down your arms, all the way to your hands and fingertips, relaxing all of those muscles. Relaxing the upper back, the chest. Feeling the honey pouring over your torso, relaxing your diaphragm, middle of your back. And let's pause there and just take a few extra long, slow, deep breaths right down into the diaphragm, long and slow and deep. And just letting go as you exhale. Let's do another couple of breaths here and breathe the air all the way down into the bottom of the lungs, stretching the diaphragm just slightly, just a little bit, very gently, and then releasing and letting go and feeling all that stale air stuck in the bottom of the lungs, releasing. Let's do that breath a couple of more times to just breathe deeply all the way down into the diaphragm. Just gently stretching it ever so slightly and releasing the air. And feeling this relaxation, this warmth, continuing to flow down your stomach, down your lower back. Just melting all the muscles in its path. The whole pelvic region, especially the psoas muscles that run down the front of the hips. Just relax and let go. Feeling the honey pouring down your legs, all the way down to the ankles, feet, and toes. And now I'll be quiet for a few moments while you scan your body again from head to toes and just breathe light and healing energy into any places where you might be holding on to tension. And breathe out the tension and the stress in the form of black smoke or gray smoke. And just blow that tension right out of your body and watch it drift away off to the horizon. So now that we've relaxed the body, let's put our attention in the heart center, the heart chakra. And if you're new to this and you don't know where it is, you can find it. It's sort of between the collarbone and the sternum, sort of halfway between the diaphragm and the neck. So you can tap on that spot right in the center of your chest, and you can feel the energy there. And this is our center of love and joy. Deep inner peace. So I invite you to just be right in that place and with these energies of deep inner peace, deep letting go, relaxation. And you can also not just feel it, but visualize it. You can visualize it as a radiant miniature sun right inside your chest, right in the center of your chest. To see and feel this miniature golden sun radiating a beautiful, warm light from inside. And feel it glowing, filling up your whole chest cavity and penetrating your skin and starting to fill up your aura. Feel it spreading throughout your body, lighting up your whole body. Feel it penetrating the skin and filling up your aura throughout your entire aura, all around your body. And feel how this energy is the energy of love, how the deep inner peace leads to love. The sense of loving yourself, loving your body, loving your life. And it's also a sense of receiving love. So as you fill up with this love light, which is bubbling up inside your chest like a spring, continuing to fill you up, take a deep breath down into the heart. And as you fill up your lungs with air, visualize yourself filling up with the love of Spirit. Fill yourself up with Spirit's love of you and Spirit's delight in you. And just receive the love. And feel the love. And you might find yourself getting a smile on your face. And it's okay if you're not. If you're not in the mood, that's all right. You can be in whatever mood you need to be in. But if you want to cheat, you can just smile anyway. If you just fake a smile, science has discovered that this triggers the happy hormones to be released in the brain. Most people think that we smile because we're happy, but it can also work the other way around, that we get happy because we smile. So the brain will release the happy hormones if you smile. And it is a great way to cheat if you want to just feel the happiness. So again, I'm not forcing you to do this, only if you want this. I know sometimes if you're grieving or something is happening in your life that's bringing you down, you're just not ready for that, and that's okay. But it's always nice to feel the love, feel the joy if you can. Oh. As you continue to fill up with love and receive the love of Spirit, I invite you to take that radiant ball of light in the center of your chest and move it all the way down to the root chakra. Bring it down to what's known as the perineum, the place between the anus and the genitals. And just feel how when you bring your attention there, the root chakra naturally opens. And let's drop our grounding cords from the root chakra all the way down to the center of the earth. And feel the anchoring, centering, grounding quality that happens from that. And just relax into this. Just allow your body to feel gravity gently pulling you towards the earth. And feel your body connecting with the earth in the form of the chair and the floor. And just relax into that support of Mother Earth beneath us. And just let yourself go like a little baby being cradled in its mother's arms. Mother Earth cradles us, nurtures us, protects us. Just relax and let go. And realize you have nowhere to go and nothing to do except being right here, right now. You're perfectly safe, perfectly held. Just letting go into the arms of the mother. Like a little baby. Oh. And now let's draw that ball of light from the root chakra all the way up, back to the heart, and all the way up to the top of the head, the crown chakra. And feel how the crown chakra naturally starts to open just by putting your attention there. Also known as the 1,000-petaled lotus. And you can feel it unfurling petal by petal, naturally opening up. It's like a funnel-shaped vortex pointing up and out. Sits on the top of your head like a crown that a king or a queen would wear, in case you're new. And so feel how the crown opens. And send the energy straight up and out the top of your head, all the way out into formless space, connecting with the celestial realms. And then bring that energy back down into the body. You can feel it coming in any way you like, but sometimes it's helpful to see it as a golden rain, a misty rain that's just gently sprinkling down on you, filling up your crown, filling up your aura, filling up your body with celestial energy. But just enjoy this sense of filling up with light, receiving the light and the love. You can feel it coming in from above and coming up from below, from earth as well, simultaneously, filling up your body and your aura. As you do this, as you fill up with light and love, I'm going to say a prayer and an invocation for our call today. We call on Great Spirit, Divine Mother, Father God, the Self that we all are. We call on all of our highest guides and teachers and all the angels and the beings in the celestial realms who surround us in the highest love and support. We ask that you please surround us in a beautiful cocoon of golden white light and love and healing energy, and guide our conversation today into the highest love and the highest wisdom, and hold our hands as we walk into our soul's highest purpose. And we give great thanks for the opportunity to be together today and to share this field of love, to receive love, to share love. And we ask for a blessing for this earth and for all life forms, especially all beings who are suffering for any reason. There are plenty of reasons nowadays. So we send our love and our light out to all those less fortunate than we are. And also we send the love to everyone in this circle who might be struggling in some way. And again, we give thanks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Allah. In Tibetan, that means, isn't it wonderful? So I invite you now to Slowly bring your awareness back into the room and begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. When you feel ready, you can slowly open your eyes. So again, welcome everybody. So happy to be with you and to feel this beautiful field of love. And as I was saying at the beginning of the call, we're in this incredibly powerful time right now. It's been happening for a few weeks, but it's reaching a crescendo with the opening of the Lion's Gate, which started on July 26th. And it peaks on August 8th. And I will explain more about the Lion's Gate for those who don't know about it. And I'll probably be able to share some things that maybe most of you don't know about it. But before we talk about the Lion's Gate and what it is and how to take advantage of those powerful energies associated with it, I wanted to first talk about some of the energies that we're experiencing right now because they're so intense. So as I was saying at the beginning of the call, the intensity has been happening for a few weeks, but the energy is continuing to accelerate and intensify. And it's almost like a disturbance in the force has been rippling through the inner planes. It's creating extreme highs and extreme lows and extreme shadow and extreme light. And I have not felt the energy like this amplified so much for a very long time. And I wonder if you're feeling it. You know, many people I talk to are feeling it, but there are others who are not. Some people are just having a kind of a normal time. So I'd love to hear from you if you want to email me and share. I'd love to know what you're going through. You can always email me. I don't check it personally all the time, but I do get every email. I read them all. It's courses@corelight.org. And I know quite a few people who are experiencing physical symptoms, like unusual things, like sleeping erratically, bumping into things, having little accidents, many people getting sick, and so forth, things like that. And the shadow is rising up in different ways for people. And at the same time, there's also peak moments. I know quite a few people who are having especially deep meditations and having, revelations, profound insights, having these, some people are having, I want to say, like, sort of amazing, unexpected opportunities opening up, seemingly out of the blue. Maybe it might look like an unexpected change of direction, which could bring a lot of joy, things like this. So many people are going through big changes, and whether that's inwardly or outwardly in the physical world, it's a great time to focus on that and to be rethinking our priorities and reevaluating aspects of our lives, like asking, are we heading in the right direction? Are we doing what we incarnated to do? Do we need to reassess the big picture? These are the bigger questions, and it feels like a pivotal moment in many ways at many different levels. So you might find yourself doing soul searching, and that's a great thing. You might be. I know a lot of people for whom this is happening. People are considering making commitments to something new, or starting a new creative project, or making some kind of significant change to improve your life in some way, or getting more serious somehow about something like maybe your self-care, or rededicating yourself to your journey of self-discovery. And in the process of rethinking and reevaluating all of this, you get clearer on what it is you really want. So even if the changes feel like challenges, it's important to remember that it's a very valuable process when you have to stop and go inward and reconsider your plans. So for some people, the changes and these opportunities, let's call them, they're coming in so fast and so suddenly that it can feel like we're being broken down and even brought to our knees. It can feel like a crisis. It can feel like taking a step backward, or like things are falling apart, and we can feel lost and disappointed, and we can feel betrayed, whether it's by people in our lives or by life itself. So it can really be scary. This can be a scary time, and it can feel like the fear and the chaos are ramping up. And a lot of this is about the fear of the unknown. And we're going to talk about that in the call today, because I feel that's one of the major energies that's up, is the unknown. And there's power with that. So the power of being with the unknown. But in general, the fear of the unknown can either be a negative feedback loop, which just keeps leading us deeper into fear, or we become more afraid of what feels like the doom and the gloom. But there's an alternative. We can also take a different perspective on facing the unknown. Instead of buying into the fear, we can remind ourselves that when we face the unknown, it's like the artist facing the blank canvas. So we can take on a sense of newness, freshness, awe and wonder, creativity, so many possibilities with the blank canvas. We can allow the formlessness of the unknown to inspire us and step into something new and come up with creative new ideas. If it looks like life is crumbling, or if we're being forced in a direction that's different than what we planned, or if we feel like we're taking a step backward, it's important to remember that this is a time of clearing out and letting things fall away. And it's a process that's always helping us make room for something new and better, for something that's more in alignment with what we really need. Something might be coming to us that we could never have anticipated, and it's just that the space is being opened up so that we can create this new thing and allow it in. So instead of dwelling on the fear of the unknown and the future, it's a much more productive use of our time to focus on creating something new. It's it's so much more enjoyable, and it's so much more inspiring. It's a much better way to live. So if you can look at your life like a blank canvas, and you get to be the artist of your life. And there's a great exercise you can do around this. I've been practicing this lately, and I find it very helpful. Every morning when you wake up, before you get out of bed, you can say to yourself, I am the artist of my life. Today is a blank canvas. And what am I going to do? What am I going to create with my life today? So that's the very first thing before your feet hit the floor. And also, before you put your feet on the floor, the second thing is you take a long, deep breath, and you consciously bring in the energy of inspiration, like the creative artist, breathing in inspiration. That's what inspiration means, is the in-breath, to inspire. And then on the out-breath, you release any fear or worry. And then the third thing, again, before your feet hit the floor, is you choose a word, or it could be a few words, that describe how you're going to show up for the blank canvas of your life today. So, for example, I like to use words like gratitude or compassion or humility. And if you need help choosing a word, sometimes it's helpful to review that list of heart words or ascended balance words that Leslie and I put in the Marriage of Spirit book. If you're new and you don't know, the Marriage of Spirit book is on our website. and it's got this great list in it of heart words, which always, just by reading the list, it helps us to get into that heart space. So that's a really, I have discovered that's a powerful exercise, and I invite you to give it a try. Maybe give it a try between now and the next session for the next month. So it's important to remember at a time like this that we can either have the fear and the worry, or we can have the love and the joy. But we can't have both at the same time. Fear and joy do not exist simultaneously. Worry and love don't exist simultaneously. So this is a time when we need to use all our spiritual tools and be vigilant about practicing releasing fear, releasing worry, choosing the love, choosing the joy whenever we possibly can. So if you're going through something like what I'm describing, it's really important right now to practice witnessing. And I know I talk about this every month, so I'm not going to dwell on it, but it's just important to mention. I want to ask you, how are you doing with your witnessing practice? And again, if you're new to Coralite, you can read about that in the Marriage of Spirit book. The witness is really the observer. You call it the neutral observer, the gentle observer. And that's the foundation. The witness is the foundation for our awakening. The witness is actually our awakened self. And the more we live in the witness, the more awake we are. And the more we can keep our hearts open. And the more relaxed we are. And that's even with challenges, even during challenging times like right now. So I guess I also want to add that if you're not experiencing the intensity of the energy or some kind of big change in your world or, a big inner reevaluation of your plans, that's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with you. Just, if that's you, just consider yourself blessed that you're having an easier time of it than other people. But you might want to consider taking advantage of this time when the energies are conducive to focusing your attention on what you want to create in your life and how you might want to make some changes in your life. And this is what I mean by, remembering that you are the artist of your life. You get to create what you want. And that's a huge part of the energy right now. We've actually talked about it in some previous months, and that energy is still with us. So that's why I'm bringing it up. So, okay, let's move on. Let's talk about the Lion's Gate. So first of all, happy Lion's Gate. The Lion's Gate opened on July 26th, as I said, and it peaks on August 8th, and it supposedly closes on August 12th. Some people say that it goes on for a few weeks. But it's one of the most powerful times of the year on many levels, spiritually, energetically, astrologically. It's considered a very sacred time by indigenous people, by shamanic traditions. So let me explain a little bit more about what the Lion's Gate is. And again, this will be a reminder for some of you, but some of it will be new. So the Lion's Gate is when the star Sirius aligns with our sun, which is in the constellation of Leo, the lion. And this is the time when Sirius rises and it starts to become visible in the night sky. So as the sun is setting, Sirius is rising. And Sirius is the brightest star in the sky after our sun, of course. And many civilizations throughout history have tracked Sirius for thousands of years, including the Dogon tribe in North Africa and the ancient Egyptians, to name just a few. And if you're wondering why Sirius is so significant, there are some scientific reasons. Astronomers discovered that Sirius and its whole solar system are bound to our sun and our solar system by gravitational forces. There's very strong evidence based in both scientific research and also in indigenous wisdom that we live in a binary system. So, in other words, our sun and our solar system are coupled with Sirius, and we are in what they're saying is a 24,000-year elliptical orbit around this other sun, which is Sirius. So Sirius is sometimes called the spiritual sun, and some people say that Sirius is like a kind of a great heart, like a great cosmic heart in our galaxy, and it radiates heart-centered energies. And its energy brings out the best and the worst in humanity. So it explains a lot. It's like the intense influx of light and love also flushes up the shadow, because wherever the light is brightest, the shadow is the darkest, as we all know. And this is a lot of what we're feeling right now. It's very bright light and very dark shadow. And it also represents liberation, because it supports our journey of revealing the shadow side of things so that we can make the unconscious conscious, and then we can heal and we can clear all the shadow. And of course, this is one of the foundations of the path of spiritual awakening. So it can be a really profound gift when that shadow is highlighted, because it offers us the opportunity for a deeper level of our awakening. And as we all know, the challenge is remembering that. I know you've been on the path for any period of time, you know what I'm talking about, because when the shadow comes up, we forget this. We get immersed in the emotions and in the negativity and in the challenges, and we forget. We forget, and this is what people call an FGO. And I know we've talked about this before. You know what an FGO is? It's a frickin' growth opportunity. So we're getting plenty of FGOs at the moment. Okay, let's finish up with the Lion's Gate here. I wanted to say something about the symbology. First of all, there's the number 8. It's the 8th day of the 8th month. And of course, it's 2022. So 3 2s, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. And so there's a power in the numerology of special dates like this. And then there's also the symbology of the lion, which represents courage and represents heart-centeredness. The Latin root of the word courage is cor, C-O-R, which means the heart. And so courage and heart-centeredness are one and the same thing. And so this is a time when we can access those energies in great abundance. And we can treat this window that we're in from now through August 12th and probably even beyond a bit, treat it like a solstice, or maybe like an equinox, or a supercharged full moon, or something very powerful for you. Some shamans say that 8/8 is the most powerful time of the year, and that it kicks off a whole series of these power moments, these spiritual power moments. Starts with 8/8, but it also includes 9/9, 10/10, 11/11, and 12/12. So it's a powerful time, as I said, to make new commitments, set new intentions. For example, it's a good time to consider recommitting to your spiritual awakening, or to whatever goals feel most important for your life. And it's a great time to clean out, whether that's inwardly or outwardly. So that could mean, doing extra processing, for example, clearing your mental emotional patterns, or it might be about clearing out your house, or your garage or your office or something. Could be cleaning up your relationships, relationships that are no longer serving you, reevaluating and cleaning those up. And the actual day of 8/8, August 8th, is an excellent time to do a ceremony of some kind. I've always found that very powerful. So it's an important time to recognize that we're in a death and a rebirth. The death and the rebirth are happening not just in our personal lives, but also happening in the world. So you can ask, what do you want to let go of, and what do you want to create and give birth to? And it's a great time to do some journaling and processing around all of this. You ask, what is it that you really want to do with this one precious life of yours? You're a creator, and you create the life that you came here to live. And so it's meant to be a big and beautiful and wonderful life. And so this is a great time to get in touch with whatever it is that really inspires you and touches your heart, and to write about that. And the energies are supporting getting clearer on all this right now, to set some powerful intentions around it. And it's like, I want to say this, it's like we're setting a new template. That's how it feels to me. We're able to set a new template for our personal lives as well as for the collective of humanity, the collective consciousness. And you can keep it small, you can keep it personal. What we do personally matters a lot. And even if we think we're just one person and we feel insignificant, it's not true, because what applies to an individual also applies to a collective, because the collective is just a group of individuals. So the thoughts of let's say, people of consciousness and people who are sensitive are amplified exponentially. And that's more than the people who are vibrating at lower rates. Like, for example, people who are living mostly in fear or in anger or in despair, as opposed to people who are living mostly in the higher states like peace and love and joy. And I'm not being exclusive here. I just want to be clear about that. This is not about feeling superior, because we're spiritual or anything like that. This is a science, and it was written about by Dr. David Hawkins, who was an awake medical doctor who measured the power of thoughts. And if you've never read his book, Power versus Force, I highly recommend it. It really goes into great detail on how this works. And it's incredibly empowering to know that our individual thoughts and emotions really make a difference. I think it really helps us to realize the power that we have as individuals, and that what we think and what we do and what we say really count. And so we can make a difference in creating the tipping point for the earth into a new paradigm of the heart. And also, I think it's important, I just want to be clear about something else, about something I'm not saying here. I'm not saying that it's not okay to feel anger or fear or sadness or, other kinds of emotions besides joy. That is not what I'm saying. We're all going to be experiencing those emotions passing through us from time to time. After all, we're humans, and that's just part of the human experience. And in fact, I would say if we're not experiencing some of those emotions lately, there's probably something wrong with us. Because there's so much happening in our world to make us feel nuts, and angry and sad and fearful and all of those things. But it's just that the point is to not wallow in those emotions all the time, or even in the majority of the time. You want to feel them, you want to allow them, you want to witness them, you want to welcome them, you want to make sure that you give your heart its due and let it feel what it needs to feel. But then you let it leave, and you come back into your heart, and you come back into some degree of peace and love and joy, at least as much as you're able to. And that's really it. That's the journey right now. That's what we're all doing. So I guess this is just a reminder for everybody about that. So anyway, for all the reasons, August can be an intense month because it's preparing the energies for the year ahead. It can be an intense shadow month, and it can also be a month for fueling intense growth and expansion, depending on how you choose to play it out. But the energies are building for the whole new year ahead. It's a preparation for what's coming, and it can be a time when we have to get out all of our spiritual tools in order to make the most of this moment, which is a power moment. And also to mention, this is an important part of what's happening right now. The first week of August is when some Native American tribes do their sun dance. So it's a sacred time for many indigenous peoples, and they see it as a time to bring life to the people for the coming year. And so I want to also just draw a quick connection here between the Native Americans' prophecies about the white buffalo calf and the South African tribes' prophecies about the white lions of Timbavati. And they're both about heralding a time of renewal, a time of great renewal for the earth and the birthing of this new paradigm of the heart within us and in the world. And as most of you know, Corelight supports the Global White Lion Protection Trust, and you can find out more about them on our website under the Sacred Activism tab at corelight.org. So I won't elaborate on the story of the white lions because most of you know about it anyway. So just to save time, it's an amazing story. But if you're new to Corelight and it interests you, you can learn more about it on our website on the Sacred Activism tab under the White Lion section. So yeah, Leslie and I have a home not far from Timbavati, and Timbavati in the local language, it means the place where the lions came down from the stars. And it's the only place on earth where the white lions have ever appeared in the wild. So it's a very special area, very sacred area. And because of our close connection with the white lions of Timbavati, we especially like to honor and celebrate the Lion's Gate moment. So that's why I'm sharing so much about it with you today. It feels very important to us. So it's a time of bringing in the energy of the source. And we can all benefit by doing whatever we feel called to do during this powerful window. For me, what I've been feeling a lot of power in lately, I've been experiencing these disturbances in the force, as I call them, on the inner plane. So I've been doing a lot of journaling, a lot of processing, using the polarities and triangles and squares from the Marriage of Spirit book, and especially asking for dreams. I've been asking for a lot of dreams lately to help shed light on some of the things that I'm trying to get clear on. And then writing down the dreams and spending time analyzing the dreams. It's been incredibly rich. And so I would say this is especially helpful if you find yourself in any kind of conflict, whether it's with another person or a situation, whatever it is. But it can play, for a lot of people, it's playing out right now around boundary issues of various kinds. And that can include legal issues, contracts, relationship agreements, and things like that. So it's a very good time to do the inner work and to get really clear inside yourself about your boundaries and your needs and what you can give other people and what you can't give to other people. So like I said, it's super helpful to journal about all of that and get clear on your soul's purpose, why you're here, what you want to do with your life. And then you let that guide the rest of your decisions. Okay, so I've already mentioned Leslie's birthday is August 12th, but I guess just to remind you that we're going to be celebrating Leslie as we always do. And so you can be checking your email for that if you're wanting to celebrate Leslie with us. We also post things on Facebook. There's my page, and Leslie's got her page, and there's Corelight's page. All right, so let's shift gears to the next topic, which is the rising of the feminine power. Last month, we talked about the importance of realizing that we're in a very emotional time and a time of paradox. And paradox and emotion are two of the feminine powers, or the yin powers. And so for anyone who might be new, the yin and yang are how the ancient Chinese Taoists referred to what we now call masculine and feminine in the West. But it really has nothing to do with gender, because no matter what our gender identification is, we've all got masculine and feminine aspects within us. Just that usually one side is mostly dormant inside us, or latent. So I'm bringing this up because these powerful feminine energies are still with us this month. They're super strong, in fact. So I want to just recap a little bit of last month's weather report and add a little bit more to it, because it's very empowering when we realize that so much of what we're going through right now is just the rise of the feminine power. You know, we're all needing to get more comfortable with our feminine power, and we're learning to embody it. Just recognizing that this is what's happening is incredibly empowering. And it helps us feel more comfortable with difficult energies and conflicts and all that kind of thing we're experiencing right now. And this is both in our personal lives as well as collectively. So if you were with us last month, you'll remember we talked about the fact that many of the polarized conflicts that we're experiencing on the world stage are what we talked about as unwinnable arguments, and that they are endlessly debatable. And it's things like the right versus the left, conservative versus liberal, abortion rights, gun ownership, vaccines, masks, wars, and the list goes on. I don't need to go on. And so I realize that just mentioning those subjects, like, I can feel the tension. I can feel everybody going, and it brings up polarization and tension. And so if that's happening for you right now, just from hearing those words, I'm inviting you to just breathe. Just call in your witness, your gentle witness, your neutral witness, and remember who you are. We are the pure awareness. We are light, we are love, and we are experiencing emotions passing through us. Sorry, it's just, I'm super aware of how contentious these issues are. It's so intense right now. And so I just want to be clear, I'm not saying that it's not important to have opinions about these issues, or that it's not important to debate them. They are very important issues. Everybody's going to have opinions about them. I'm just saying that it's important to recognize that all of these things are endlessly debatable. They're polarities that are endlessly debatable. So we have to acknowledge that much. And so, like we talked about last month, for 8 billion people on the planet, there are 8 billion people who are right about their argument, because everybody's got the facts to back up their opinions. So everybody's right. Nobody's nobody's wrong. And how can that be? And that's the ideal situation for paradox. The defining characteristics of paradox are when something is like a riddle that is unsolvable, that's endlessly debatable, that has no correct answer. Like the Zen koans of, you've heard 2 hands clapping, but what is the sound of 1 hand clapping? What a paradox does is stop the linear mind. It stops the logical mind in its tracks, and it breaks it down, and it forces us into some other faculties beyond logic and reason. So it opens us up to new ways of thinking, new ways of seeing, new possibilities, new solutions, higher awareness. So in Taoism, paradox and logic are opposites, and paradox being the yin power and logic being the yang power, feminine and masculine. And the other feminine power we spoke about last month was emotion, because these are polarized issues that I just listed. They're highly emotional. And you remember the opposite of emotion? Remember We talked about it last month. Think for a moment. The opposite of emotion is the Taoist opposite of emotion is mind. So mind and emotion play the yang and the yin polarity. And we talked about how we're never going to resolve any of these very emotional issues with logical arguments. You can't resolve emotional issues with logic. If you've ever tried convincing an emotional person out of their position with logic, you know that it just doesn't work. So just being aware of all this, it's really helpful in navigating these challenges that we're in. We're in a time of endlessly debatable, highly emotional arguments, and it's all so incredibly polarized and supercharged and very intense. And the truth is, it's likely to remain like this for quite some time. So I thought it was important to talk about it again today and to bring in a couple more polarities that are up for us right now, because they go along with this theme of the yin, the yang, the feminine, the masculine. And it's about embracing the unknown and being flexible. And one of the feminine powers that we're being invited to embrace is flexibility. It's a time where we're being asked to be more fluid, to go with the flow. And so what's the opposite of flexibility? Do you know? Opposite of flexibility. For the Taoists, it's rigidity. The yin being flexibility and the yang being rigidity. And both have their power and both have their time and their place. It's not that one is good and the other is bad, one's better, one's worse. They complement each other. They're in a dance with each other. So I wanted to read to you a little, very, very short passage from the Tao Te Ching, where the Taoists speak about the power of the yin being like water. Here it is. Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water. Yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. So I love that because it shows that both have their power and that it's a dance. And the dance is true for all of the masculine and feminine qualities. So you can see the dance in the symbol, in the Taoist yin-yang symbol. It's that circle with the white and the black swirl inside, and they seem to be flowing into each other and wrapping themselves around each other and dancing with each other. And so I feel like it's really important that we remember that we are in a dance. We're in this dance between masculine and feminine. We are not in a war, because the two sides complement each other. And we cannot know one without the other. They can't exist without each other. It's one of the main reasons for our incarnation in the first place. We come into human bodies to be able to experience that dance of opposites of masculine and feminine. And I know it can feel like a war. I mean, you know, the past 6,000 or so years, the whole age of patriarchy, women have been oppressed and the feminine energy has been suppressed. And that's in both women and in men. It's really about feminine energy that's being suppressed. And so in that sense, it has certainly seemed like a war, but we're starting to wake up now into this new paradigm of the heart. And that's where we transcend that war energy and we move into this realization. It doesn't have to be a war. It can be a dance. And this is what we're starting to discover inside ourselves, that the masculine and the feminine complement each other. And so much of this is about learning to love ourselves. I want to say that again. A huge amount of what we're going through right now with this dance is about learning to love ourselves. because in the patriarchal culture, it was instilled in us from a very young age and for thousands of years, a very strong belief in the power of the masculine and the powerlessness of the feminine. And that the masculine power is better and the feminine is worse. One is strong, one is weak. We've developed, because of that, this sense of shame and worthlessness and weakness and inferiority around our feminine side. Or even just around the lack of having a masculine side, we feel that. And our culture imprints that over and over and over. Our culture rewards the yang side over the yin side in so many ways. I made a list here. I'm going to read the list to you. It's hard to remember all this, but it comes from the traditional list of yin and yang qualities from the Taoists. So here are some of the ways that our culture rewards the yang over the yin. Productivity over rest. Speed over slowness. Aggressiveness over receptivity. Hierarchy over egalitarianism. Competition over cooperation. Individuality over community. Self-sufficiency over sharing. Being goal-oriented over being process-oriented. So we're all starting to wake up to the fact that one side is not stronger, the other side is not weaker. There's no better or worse here. Each side has its power. They're both equally powerful, just in opposite ways. And in the age of patriarchy, the power of the feminine has been hidden. The yin power is essentially invisible to third dimensional eyes because it's internal power. We're not talking about external power. So this is not valued in the patriarchal culture. So it's really important now to focus on clearing away any patterns that we've taken on around shame or inferiority or worthlessness or weakness or any of this BS around the feminine side. This is about stepping more into recognizing the power of our feminine side and learning to love ourselves and releasing any lack of self-love that we might be experiencing. And I know we all have our methods of processing these issues in the mind and emotions and in the body. And when we start to clear and release those old belief systems around the inferiority of the feminine. And again, it doesn't matter which gender identification you are because we all have both masculine and feminine within us, but the physical body starts to take on whole new levels of health and vitality when we do this clearing work. In fact, I remember Leslie's guide speaking to us long ago about this back in the 90s. They spoke about breast cancer. There was a student who came to Leslie with breast cancer, and Leslie's guide spoke, and they said that the power behind the throne of cancer is a lack of self-love. So they were saying that by clearing and releasing those old patterns of the inferiority of the feminine and not being able to fully love our own feminine side, that's when we thrive more on so many different levels, and not just mentally and emotionally, but also physically. So it's a great incentive to do the clearing work, the healing work on ourselves, and to release anything that stands in the way of loving ourselves. Okay, I want to just get back to the topic. We were talking about the two polarities that are especially up for us right now. One is flexibility and rigidity, as I said. And the other is embracing the unknown. And so what's the opposite of that? Embracing the unknown. Well, I think it's probably pretty obvious that it's the need to know. Embracing the unknown versus the need to know. And the need to know is about a desire for form and structure in our lives, and it's about avoiding formlessness and avoiding the unknown. And all of this is about the need to control. And of course, control is synonymous with the ego. The ego is programmed to desire control and to fear being out of control. And we tend to fear being out of control because to the ego that feels like chaos. And before we go any further into that, I just wanted to be clear that I'm not saying that the ego is bad and wrong and we need to kill the ego. I know that I know that can be a very sensitive subject nowadays. So if it starts to feel that way for you, I just invite you to take a few deep breaths and get into the witness. And just remember that this is not about judgment. If you start to feel any self-judgment, or if you're feeling bad or wrong, or, like the ego is being attacked, just remember that it's all okay, and that's just programming talking. It's not who you are. So you can witness all of that and let it go. And we're not talking about any kind of need to annihilate the ego. We all need an ego to survive on planet Earth. Even enlightened beings need a streamlined version of an ego in order to be here and function. So we're not killing the ego. We're just supporting it in its morphing into more streamlined, better versions of itself. So I think it's interesting that physiologically, science has discovered that the brain is all about helping us survive. And all the way up into our 20s, the brain is still developing. And as the brain develops, it's being hardwired for survival. So whatever we experience in our childhood, no matter how traumatic it might have been for us, the brain is hardwiring us to recognize that we know how to survive that situation. And that becomes our egoic programming. It's like, grooves or channels are being hardwired into the brain from these repeating thought patterns, thinking the same things over and over and over. And so this is why we tend to recreate situations over and over in our lives, even if they weren't such great situations. We recreate or we reenact them because it's all about the brain telling us that, we know how to survive that situation. So for example, let's say you were raised by an abusive alcoholic father and a passive mother who wasn't able to stand up for you or stand up for herself, and so she just kind of checked out. And as an adult, you would probably draw to yourself a partner who would play that dynamic out with you to some degree. One of you would act out your father's role, the other would act out your mother's role to some degree. And you would do this because even if it's painful and dysfunctional and all of that, your brain is telling you that you know how to survive this. So the brain programs the ego to reenact the situation to ensure your survival. But that's only until we do the egoic clearing work and we heal and release the pattern. And then, of course, everything's different. And of course, this is just, I'm giving an extreme example, but we're all doing this kind of behavior all the time. It's just got degrees of subtlety. We invite people and situations into our lives to play out similar things over and over because we are reenacting those patterns that were programmed into the brain in childhood because we know how to survive them. So for the brain and the ego, it's all about survival. It's all about control. And anything that threatens our ability to control is a threat to our survival. So, of course, anything like the unknown or formlessness or a lack of structure are going to feel like chaos to us, and it's going to feel like a threat to our survival. So a couple of more polarities that we're kind of circling around here would be control versus chaos and survival versus death. And I probably don't need to remind you, but we're in a time when so much is unknown. We're being told so many lies, and there's so much manipulation going on that it's hard to know what's true and what's not true. And we can't rely on the systems that we used to be able to rely on, the things that used to be stable, that seemed stable anyway. Things like the money system, governmental systems, health system, food system, and on and on. All of those forms that defined the patriarchal era, they feel like a house of cards sometimes, don't they? And the natural world is certainly, let's say, being decimated at an alarming rate. So, we're told that the future of the planet is hanging in the balance right now. So we're facing an uncertain future on many, many levels. And I just want to be clear, I don't want to sound like a pessimist here, because I'm not. I'm not a pessimist. As I've said so many times on these calls, I'm aware that there's this huge wave of support from the invisible realms, and we're surfing that wave. It's going with us. We're surfing it into the new paradigm of the heart, and that's our future. That's what we incarnated for, and it's already birthing. But it's just that right now we're in a stage of it where people feel really uncertain about so many things, and there's so much confusion and so many unknowns. And the unknown is essentially, it's just formlessness. And to the ego, as I said, that feels like total chaos, and that's scary because, as I said, the ego equates all of that with death. And this goes back to the metaphor I was sharing with you before about the blank canvas that sometimes can feel very scary to an artist, We look at the blank canvas and we feel fear because it's the unknown, formlessness. But that's only until we see that we're not just facing the unknown. The blank canvas is pure potential, and we get to create something beautiful out of it. We can project onto the blank canvas our worst fears if we want to, but we can also use that opportunity of the blank canvas to pull something magnificent out of us and birth something totally new and beautiful. And this always reminds me of what Leslie said when we started our children's art program for the kids in rural South Africa. She said, when you teach a child art, they learn that they're not empty inside. They learn that they have inner resources. And they learn that they can always find some kind of creative solution to life's problems. So I feel like it's a great metaphor that we can remember whenever we feel afraid of facing the unknown. Yes, it can feel scary, but it's also this great opportunity to create something new. So it's very empowering to realize that we're being invited to step into more of these feminine powers right now. And again, the polarities that we're highlighting this month are flexibility versus rigidity, and embracing the unknown versus needing to control. And again, it's not that one side is better than the other. These are both powerful in their own way, and there's a time and a place for both sides. You know, the yin and the yang are in this dance with each other. But if you find yourself stuck on one side of these polarities, like, you know, for example, needing to control or fearing the unknown, it's just helpful to remember that this is one of the feminine powers to embrace the unknown and to appreciate it for the latent potential and the profound beauty that can emerge from this feminine side, from this dark, unknown yin quality. And like we talked about last month, it's an incredibly powerful practice to hold the tension between the two sides of the polarities. Because when we can do that, we allow for a third option to manifest. And that's the transcendent option. So if you'd like to do an exercise between now and next month's call, I've already given you one, but there's a second one you can do if you feel like it. I recommend doing a square on embracing the unknown versus needing to control. And if you're brand new to Corelight and you don't know what a square is, again, you can check out our book, The Marriage of Spirit, which explains what it is and how to do one. They're very simple, but super powerful journaling techniques for clearing the ego and healing the ego. So let's just quickly name the corners of the square. We won't do the square, but I just want to name them for people who might be new and not know how to do it. First corner would be, say, desire for control. Second corner would be the fear of controlling. Next corner is desire to embrace the unknown. And the last corner is the fear of embracing the unknown. So that would be a great one for the month ahead, since it's such a powerful time for clearing out, you know, and setting intentions. And oh my goodness, I'm looking at the time, and I'm not going to have time today to get to some of the things I had hoped. I'm so sorry. I'm going to run out of time, so we'll save those. If they apply for next month, I'll save them for next month. Let me just say this one last thing before we open up to questions and sharing. I wanted to check in with you. I wanted to ask you about your practice of being in nature. You know, we've talked about this several times over the last few months, and I'd like to know how that's going for you. Are you spending time in nature? What are you doing in nature? If you have time to write to me, I'd love to hear. It's so important right now, and it's one of the most joyful things that I've been experiencing lately is being in nature. And I spoke last month or the month before about one of my practices, but there's another one that I've been doing and I just love someone to share with you. I go to the Gulf of Mexico. It's not far from where I'm living right now in Florida. And I soak in the Gulf, one of my favorite things in the world. And I only get to do this a couple of times a week. I don't have time. I'm not close enough to the Gulf to be able to do that. But at least a couple of times a week, I'll go and I'll soak for an hour or so. And then I sing to the Gulf. I have a very special song that I like to sing to the Gulf of Mexico. It's called the Thank You Song. I learned it in South Africa. And the words are, the lyrics are just thank you, but they're repeated in about a dozen different languages, including some of the African languages and other European languages. And so I sing that to the Gulf, and it's my way of feeling such deep, deep gratitude for the beauty of the natural world and for the gift of being alive and the gift to get to share this time with the natural world. It's so beautiful. And it puts me right into my heart and into the field of love and so easy to connect with the rest of the natural world. I gaze at the shimmering light on the water, and sometimes it's the sunset, and there's always wildlife around, birds and little crustaceans, and sometimes a dolphin or a manatee or a shark or something will pass by. And I share that with you just because in case it inspires you, if you haven't been spending time in nature, I really encourage it. And love to hear from you, like I said. So let me know how that practice is going for you. All right. So I think now what we'll do is open up to the questions and the sharing. We always have such beautiful questions and sharing, and I want to thank everybody for writing in. I really appreciate it. I don't always have the answers, but even just by writing to me, I can attune to what's going on, and it really helps me. So any questions are fine, nothing off limits. So you can email your questions in advance to courses@corelight.org, or if you're on the web call, you can type your questions in on the Q&A board, and those will be for the next month. And it's also not possible for me to answer all the questions, but I do read them all, and I get to as many of them as I can. So just know that if your question doesn't get answered here, I might get to it the next month, or it doesn't get answered by me. The questions always get answered somehow, whether it's in a dream or, in meditation or some other teacher or a book or whatever. Somebody answers the question. So the first question is from Maureen. How might the sun's activity, specifically the latest CMEs, coronal mass ejections, and solar flares impact consciousness? The plasma and magnetic field expulsions clearly impact all sorts of things, even pushing satellites out of orbit. Yeah, I've read about that. Sometimes they fall out of space and hit the Earth because of the CMEs. And even more so when the CMEs are directly aligned with and directed at our dear planet. How can I better understand how to make use of these events? Well, thanks for your question, Maureen. It's a very interesting one. I really appreciate it. First of all, for anybody who doesn't know, a CME or a solar flare, these are just big bursts of electromagnetic radiation that come from the sun. And my understanding is that when a CME hits the Earth, it disrupts the geomagnetic field of the planet. So all living things are affected because we each have our own magnetic field, and of course that interacts with the Earth's geomagnetic field. So we're all affected. And I think one of the main things that gets affected in humans is the pineal gland. The pineal gland is responsible for regulating our circadian rhythms. And for anybody who doesn't know what a circadian rhythm is, that's like our internal clock that helps regulate the body's rhythms, and it's in sync with Earth's rhythms and cycles. So, like, for example, the sleep cycle, that's one of our circadian rhythms. And the pineal gland is responsible for producing melatonin, which is the hormone that makes us sleep. And the production of melatonin is triggered when the sun goes down and it starts to get dark. So you can imagine that's just one example of how a CME could affect our circadian rhythms. They affect our ability to get the deep sleep that we need if it disrupts the pineal gland's ability to make the melatonin. So that's just one example. There are many more. But I learned that scientists have done studies on the effect of CMEs on the human physiology and on our consciousness, and they've discovered that there's a direct correlation. So our physiology and our consciousness are definitely affected. And in fact, there are reports that show there's a correspondence between CMEs and increased incidence of anxiety and depression and bipolar disorder and other kinds of, let's say, mental health issues. So my sense is that CMEs could look like disruptions in the energy field, but also the feeling when I tune in on this, the feeling I have is that maybe more likely is it's an intensification of the energy field. So how much we get affected would depend on how big a CME is and what kind of consciousness we're holding. There's no rule. I think it's going to affect everybody differently. And if we're prone to shadow and prone to imbalance, then the effect would be to push us more into that. And it would exacerbate the imbalance and the shadow that's already there inside of us. But if that's not you, if you're a student of consciousness and you're learning how to use intensification of energy and encounters with shadow, for example, to ascend in consciousness, you know that you can use your spiritual tools to work with anything that looks like a disruption or an intensification that, a CME might bring. So it's like the metaphor of the clay on the potter's wheel that we've discussed before. If the clay is perfectly centered, it looks like it's motionless, even when the wheel's spinning super fast. But if the clay is just a little bit off balance when the wheel spins really fast, it can literally, it can start to wobble so much that it flies off the wheel. So to summarize, let's just say we can use the CMEs and the intensification of the energy or the disruption of the energy as an opportunity for our ascension in consciousness. And the word FGO comes up again. We use the growth opportunities, the frickin' growth opportunities, as an opportunity to clear away the imbalances and the limitations and the shadow aspects that rise up. And we learn to become more centered and balanced like the clay on the potter's wheel. So focus on energy clearing practices, on meditation, and joy practices, and using all of our spiritual tools. And then we can use the CMEs, or we can use the world events, or we can use any kind of intensification or disruption of the energies to raise our vibrations and to experience the ascension of consciousness. And that's what we need to do in times of great change. It's just like that. This is part of the course. This is the path right now. So it doesn't matter if it's a CME or something else. It's like we use what we're given. And I know people who call this time an ascension accelerator. And that's certainly my experience of the times that we're in. We are definitely in an ascension accelerator. And so CMEs are part of that. So I could go on, but let's call that final for now. So thank you for your question, Maureen. I hope that was helpful. The next one is from Anne Sophie. She says, I'd love some insights on skywalking, as I'm called to do it. And I found the passage in the Marriage of Spirit very inspiring, but I would love more insights if possible. So thank you, Anne Sophie. It's a great question. One of my favorite topics in the whole world is skywalking. I wrote quite a bit about skywalking in my book, which is Living with Enlightenment. So if you want more information, that's a good place to find it. It's in chapter 16, which is called Work, Money, and Living in the Flow. But to give you a basic response here, I would say skywalking is really about the philosophy of jump and the net will appear. And I'm sure we've all heard that before. Jump and the net will appear. When most people face the unknown, like we've been talking about it today as facing the blank canvas of our lives, it feels like we're at the edge of a cliff, right? And we look down and we see the canyon floor about a mile below. And, we think, oh my God, I can't possibly jump. It would just mean death. I would just splat on the ground. And, that's it. That's the end of the discussion. We kind of contemplate it for a moment, but then most people will turn around and walk the other way. And spirit will give us signs, and our heart will tell us, go ahead, you can do it. Just jump and the net will appear. But it's too scary, and what most people say is, show me the net first, and then I'll jump. How many times have we all done that? But that's not how it works. And so this skywalking is about learning to follow our hearts and to trust in the support of the invisible realm. So we are learning to jump first and trust that the net will appear, because it will not appear before we jump. But the trick is, this is the key. It's really, it's about knowing that it's our authentic heart calling us. And it's not just coming from the ego or from impulsiveness or from anything else. And so in my book, I listed a few key, what I call touchstones for skywalking. So I won't go into them here in detail, but if you want to read about them, you can look at the book. But in general, just to summarize, the touchstones for skywalking are things like, we feel passionate about whatever decision we're about to make. We have a very strong inner knowing and a felt sense of rightness about this, whatever this is. And the feelings that we're having are not fleeting. They last. They're more permanent. There's a big difference between skywalking and being impulsive. That's definitely something that's important to recognize. So it's a lot about practicing discernment and developing the capacity of knowing when it's coming from the heart and not the head. So it's like exercising a muscle, we strengthen it over time through practice, and eventually our ability to skywalk improves as time goes on, and we get better and better at it. It's about learning to process doubt and process fear and any other limitations that come up, and they always come up. There's plenty these are part of the opportunity. The FGO of this is that you get to be clearing your fear. So it's about learning to recognize the signs and the synchronicities that are guiding us in the direction of jumping off the cliff. And Leslie called it skywalking, for those of you who have never heard of it, because of the movie Star Wars and the main character, Luke Skywalker. He became the hero because he learned how to trust in the Force, if you remember the story. And in the end, he was able to conquer the dark side by letting the Force guide him. So it's such a great story. It's a classic story, a great example of learning to trust, what they call the Force in the movie, and just to let that guide all of our movements. And, this path of skywalking, there's also a teaching about it in the Bible that I actually love. I was raised as a Christian, and I'm no longer a practicing Christian, of course, but in the New Testament, Jesus gave a teaching about this. And he said, seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all else shall be added unto you. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all else shall be added unto you. And so if you translate that into our modern way of speaking, what he was saying is that if we put our spiritual path first, we put our devotion to spirit first, then everything else falls into place. And if we learn to follow our hearts and trust in that spiritual guidance and to clear away and move beyond the fear, then all the things we need, everything for survival, everything for success, everything to help us achieve our soul's purpose, whatever you can name, the support, the money, the people, the resources, all of it shows up in the most miraculous ways. So when we're practicing skywalking, we never need to worry about anything else as long as we have the faith and the discernment and the ability to follow our heart. And that's when we can jump, and the net does appear. And I can speak from experience, it appears every time. And I know many of you have had the same experience. So it's an amazing way to live. Okay, I think we have time for one more. There was one more that I'd like to get to. This is from Jane. Jane says, I'm wondering if you can speak about building and maintaining our light. When we're feeling despair and wanting to give up, it's all about losing our light. How do we keep it despite all the negative energy that seems to be bombarding us? This quote by Leslie from her audio, Building Your Light, caught my attention this month. As we get older, our light bodies tend to become somewhat depleted of light. They get knocked around by life's experiences. Patterns become ingrained through constant repetition, causing shadowy areas to appear on the light bodies. The shadowy areas become holes eventually, through which our allocated supply of light trickles away and is lost, and is not always very easy to recapture or renew. Okay, well, thank you, Jane. That's a great question. Just first of all, for those who don't know, what she's referring to, Building Your Light, is an audio that's part of a course that we've offered before, and we're going to be offering it again at some point in the future, so one day. And yes, Jane, I remember that teaching very well, and I think it's interesting just that last month, somebody else asked a question, and I spoke about the teachings of impeccability, because that was what I was getting to share with you about this now. Leslie's teachings around impeccability are about helping us to build our light and to hold on to our light. So for anybody who's taken that spiritual warrior training course in the past, it's always good to re-listen to the impeccability audio from time to time, and you'll get more out of it. So just quickly, because we're out of time, just a brief summary of the impeccability teachings. They are about doing more of the things that build your light and doing less of the things that drain your light. It's a simple equation. So, for example, the best two ways that I know of to build your light and to hold on to it are through doing the egoic clearing work, right? Or you can call it shadow work, shadow clearing work, self-inquiry work, whatever you like to call it. But it's any way of looking in the mirror and making the unconscious conscious. That's what I'm talking about. So that's number one. And then also, regular meditation practice is a really, really good way to build your light. But you know, we talk on these calls so often about doing the things that you love to do and that create joy in your life. And those things always build your light. So spending time in nature, laughing, getting a massage, petting your cat, doing something creative, have sex, on and on and on. I'm not suggesting you be promiscuous or anything. I'm just saying that these are things that release the happy hormones. They're known to fill us with joy, physiologically, and then, of course, mentally and emotionally and spiritually too. So being around beauty, any kind of beauty fills us up with light. So these are the things that you want to spend more time doing. And then it's also important to learn to identify the things that drain your light. So things like watching the news, for example, that's like, I think, number one on the list these days. It's just so draining. Spending too much time in front of a computer, too much time sitting, being around people that drain you, being in places that drain you, going to the mall might drain you. So anyway, you want to spend less time doing those kind of things. And yes, it's true that as we get older, it becomes so much more important to practice all of those things, because we do lose our light more easily. So we do need to patch the subtle body, so to speak. And Leslie talks more about that in the impeccability tape audio. So I hope that helps. And I'm looking at the time, and I think we need to close for today. Gosh, it goes so fast. So let's close with a little meditation and a prayer. And we've got about 5 minutes. So I invite you right now to just take a couple of minutes to stop whatever you're doing if you're multitasking, and just sit and close your eyes. And take a few long, slow, deep breaths. Just relaxing, letting go. Breathing in the light. Breathing out anything that might have gotten stirred up inside you. I know sometimes these conversations will do that. So this is the time to just let it all go. Come back to the energy field. Breathing in the love and the light that surrounds us in this energy field that we're sitting in. And breathing out any stress or tension in the body. Just relaxing, completely letting go. Let's just quickly attune to the heart center again, where we started this call. Just attune to that place in the center of your chest. Feel the love, feel the peace, feel the joy resides there. You can put a smile on your face if you want to cheat, as I said. While we hold this beautiful field of love, I'm going to make an offering of the polarities that we mentioned on the call today. So this will be a clearing for each of us individually, but also for our collective. We usually have a few hundred people listening, tuning into these calls, not all live, of course, but through listening later. And so this will be a wonderful opportunity for us to create a collective healing. So I just invite you to relax and receive while I say this offering and this prayer. Great Spirit, Divine Mother, Father God, the self that we all are, all the guides and teachers that surround us in the highest love and support. We're making an offering right now of all the polarities that we've mentioned on this call. I'm going to list them right now, and we give them back. As I list them, we can all feel them releasing, and you can visualize them like in a balloon drifting off to the horizon, or in a puff of smoke floating up above your head and away. Any way you like to visualize them dissolving, disappearing as they leave us. So we're giving back the imbalances, and we're calling in unity consciousness. We offer up the right versus the left, conservative versus liberal, pro-choice versus pro-life, owning guns versus not owning guns, getting a vaccine versus not getting a vaccine, wearing a mask versus not wearing a mask, war versus peace, masculine versus feminine, yin and yang, logic versus paradox, mind versus emotion, rigidity versus flexibility, embracing the unknown versus the need to know, control versus chaos, survival versus death, productivity versus rest, speed versus slowness, aggressiveness versus receptivity, hierarchy versus egalitarianism, competition versus cooperation, individuality versus community, self-sufficiency versus sharing, being goal-oriented versus being process-oriented. And then here are some others that some people wrote in. Self-determination versus subjugation, control versus loss of control, powerlessness versus powerful, judgment versus acceptance. So we give all of these back to Spirit, and we call in the ascended state of spiritual purity and gratitude, unconditional love, humility, joy, and the peace that passes all understanding. We call these qualities in as our new consciousness. We ask for grace to hold our hands and support us as we walk out into the world, holding these new ascended balanced states in a strong, powerful way, and we share them with the world. And so it is. We give great, great thanks, knowing that this will be done for us. And it is done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Alalaho. Oh, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you. I invite you to just come back for a moment while we say goodbye. I'm so grateful to you for showing up for this call. Thank you for participating in the field of love. My heart is with you. I look forward to hearing from you. And I send you all my love. And until next month, bye for now.